the keepers of the peace, the servants of the Force, the light of the galaxy. This is what the Jedi Order was for thousands of years. But one man changed all of that. His brilliant plan to orchestrate a war that would turn the entire Jedi Order from peacekeepers to soldiers and then to the dark side was something that nobody expected. And this evil Sith Lord did it behind a kind, compassionate, and friendly mask. A wolf among sheep.
A surprise, to be sure.
And it's no coincidence that the greatest and most evil villain of all time was a politician.
Surprised?
Although the plan began with Darth Bane nearly 1,000 years earlier, it was Sheev Palpatine, a man truly and unapologetically evil, that would finally destroy the Jedi, or more accurately, manipulate the Jedi to destroy themselves. This grand plan begins in Naboo, and he doesn't just appear out of nowhere and announce his plan to everyone with an evil, maniacal laugh.
Kill me, and my spirit will pass into you. As all the Sith live in me, you will be Empress. We will be one.
Only a moron would do that. The way he starts this is by moving one piece at a time. He wants Naboo to be part of the Republic. This would give him the opportunity for greater power. So he orchestrates a blockade of his own home planet of Naboo. Now, unaware that this Darth Sidious is actually the Naboo senator, Viceroy Gunray agrees to the blockade of the planet, whose leader was a young teenage girl named Padme Amidala. This blockade would create conflict, causing Padme to petition the Senate for aid. Palpatine knew that the bureaucracy of the Republic would stifle any immediate response. They would need to form a committee, investigate the Trade Federation, all while Naboo and its people suffered. He then manipulates the young queen to push for a vote of no confidence of the leader of the Senate, Chancellor Valorum. Palpatine knows full well that he is in the perfect position to replace the Chancellor, having a sympathy vote from the Senate because his home planet is the one being attacked. During this time, the Jedi had become complacent in the last 1,000 years of peace. They sat in a literal ivory tower, becoming quite political themselves. Palpatine recognized their arrogance and their complacency. He watched it grow. Their ignorance for the deadly game he was playing made it easy for him to maneuver them exactly how he needed. His end goal was simple: turn the Jedi into enemies of the Republic, from peacekeepers to traitors. Now, the first step in this was to find a way to twist their complacency and their arrogance and their willingness to politicize the Order into becoming soldiers. And as the Jedi became more involved in this conflict on Naboo, Palpatine unleashed his apprentice on the galaxy. Darth Maul would become a fulcrum in the fate of the galaxy, but the arrogance of the Jedi was so strong that even the appearance of the Sith was unbelievable. They had stopped following the will of the Force. Palpatine saw this, Count Dooku saw this, and Qui-Gon Jinn saw this. Qui-Gon followed the will of the Force, which led him to Anakin. The Council brushed aside this prophecy of the Chosen One because it made them uncomfortable. They rolled their eyes and they let their arrogance guide them, not the Force. Palpatine knew otherwise. He knew that if Qui-Gon succeeded, that if he got to train Anakin, that his plan would fail. He would be destroyed. Qui-Gon was the father Anakin needed. Now this became the biggest and most important hurdle of Palpatine's life. Qui-Gon had to be killed. Palpatine's life depended on it. This is why Darth Maul became the fulcrum in the fate of the galaxy. Palpatine sent him to kill Qui-Gon. Palpatine was a master chess player. At the same time he was manipulating a queen for power, he was in the beginning stages of manufacturing a war between what appeared to be two sides, a proxy war, just to push the Jedi towards the path of being soldiers, the path to the dark side. They had already stopped listening to the Force. Now it was time for the final push. Once Maul killed Qui-Gon, Palpatine would insert himself as the father Anakin so desperately needed, and the Jedi, unwilling to open their eyes, essentially handed over their savior to be groomed by Satan himself. Palpatine also notices that Jedi Master Count Dooku has become disillusioned with the Order. Dooku was an idealist and saw that the Jedi started down a path that disconnected them from the will of the Force. Now, the other part of the fulcrum event of Maul killing Qui-Gon was the effect that this had on Count Dooku. He blamed the Jedi Council for Qui-Gon's death. It was once again their arrogance that caused them not to take Qui-Gon's claim of the Sith reappearance seriously.
And you believe it was a Sith Lord?
Yes. I gather the Council was not eager to validate that conclusion.
No, they were not, Master.
They sat on their hands while their mortal enemy continued to implement their grand plan. Palpatine also had Dooku and Sifo Dyas go to Kamino to contract the cloners to create an army of Jango Fett clones, the next phase of his master plan. He manipulated Dooku into erasing data from the Jedi archives and began to turn the Count to the dark side. Dooku kills Sifo Dyas and as a final gesture kills Jedi Master Yaddle, fully giving himself over to the dark side and to become the new Sith apprentice to Darth Sidious. And as the years go by, Palpatine becomes Anakin's confidant. He knows how much he misses his mother. He knows of his attachment to Padme. All while the Jedi tell Anakin to let go of these feelings. The one thing Anakin can't do. He needs a father figure. Not a brother like Obi-Wan, but a father. Somebody he could talk to about how he truly feels, who would be understanding, not just shut him down and suppress those feelings. Especially after what Anakin told him he did after his mother died in his arms. Shortly after, during the Battle of Geonosis, Palpatine's plan takes another step forward, with Yoda playing right into his hands by bringing the clones to help save the Jedi from Dooku and the droid army. And with that, the Clone Wars begins, all orchestrated entirely by Palpatine. The Jedi are now serving as generals in the Grand Army of the Republic. No longer peacekeepers, but soldiers. Dooku and the Separatists, led in the shadows by Darth Sidious, and on the other side, the Republic and the Jedi led by Chancellor Palpatine. Jedi Knights and Masters fighting battles across the galaxy. Jedi Padawans as child soldiers. Promotions within the Order accelerated much faster than ever before to put more soldiers on the battlefield, regardless of their age. Jedi Council members no longer listening to the will of the Force. Even when there's something telling them that they're going down the wrong path, they refuse to listen. And Palpatine, like a conductor of a symphony, coordinating each move like each section of an orchestra. The Jedi, they play their part. Padme plays her part. Dooku plays his. With each move, the Senate votes to give him more powers. It would be a beautiful concert to watch if it wasn't so evil. Palpatine wore a different mask for every encounter. The mask of law and order and stability to the Senate. The mask of humility and selflessness to the Jedi. And the mask of kindness and understanding to Anakin. All while hiding his true intentions to them all. The need for power over people. His desire to torture and enslave. His cruelty and brutality. And his willingness to sacrifice everything and everyone to achieve his goals. He saw everyone as toys. Maul, Dooku, Anakin, Yoda, and Padme. He used them as pawns. He played with them like a cat plays with a mouse before it kills. There's one event that really pulls the Jedi Order to the dark side. Dooku massacres a ship full of refugees. At this point, the Jedi do something that is 100% of the dark side. They order the assassination of Count Dooku. Mace Windu is the one who brings this idea forward. Obi-Wan, who fortunately learned from his master Qui-Gon, is absolutely appalled at this recommendation. He fights it. He knows that this is not the Jedi way. Anakin, on the other hand, is a bit more eager to volunteer, but he's denied. Yoda is quite hesitant at first, but this is huge because he's the oldest and wisest of the Jedi. But he ignores the Jedi way. He approves of the assassination plot, so they send Quinlan Vos. This is another huge turning point, or a fulcrum in the fate of the Jedi. They have now lost their way. In their eyes, the end justifies the means. This is exactly what Palpatine wants. He's accomplished it. The Jedi have fallen. Now Vos fails to assassinate Dooku, and the war continues, but the damage has already been done. Palpatine is being held captive by Dooku when Anakin and Obi-Wan show up. The final pieces are in place. Anakin kills Dooku. His anger and lust for revenge are pouring out. The dark side has a full grasp on Anakin, and yet the Jedi still ignore this. He also leaks out the information that Grievous is on Utapau. Now he recommends that Anakin should go, knowing that the Jedi would reject that recommendation, pushing Anakin's resentment further towards hatred. Yoda heads to Kashyyyk, Obi-Wan to Utapau, and Anakin is left there with him on Coruscant. Now, it's time. It's time to turn Anakin. He reveals to Anakin that there is a way to save Padme from what he sees in his nightmares, Padme's death. He can save her, but it's a power only one has achieved, and only achieved through the dark side of the Force. Palpatine has him. Padme is the weakness. Palpatine knows that Anakin will do anything to save her. Nothing will stop him. That fear of losing Padme is everything. Anakin's fear of losing Padme, his anger at the Jedi for holding him back, now is the time for Palpatine to reveal his true identity. Now, after Anakin goes to Mace and tells him that Palpatine is the Sith Lord, their fate is already sealed. The arrogance of the Jedi has blinded them. Fear has taken over. Mace rushes to face Palpatine, which is again out of character of the Jedi. Instead of waiting for Yoda or taking the time for any sort of plan, fear causes Mace to rush to Palpatine. His fear blinds him to Anakin's inner conflict. As he defeats Palpatine in combat, he decides he's going to kill him instead of arrest him. Now, blindsided by fear, as he goes in to strike the Sith Lord down, Anakin turns. His fall is now complete. The Jedi are now enemies of the Republic, traitors. The clones fulfill their true purpose. The inhibitor chips make them droids, carrying out orders without question. The fall of the Jedi wasn't just that they were killed by their own clone soldiers or by Vader. They were manipulated by Palpatine for years into destroying themselves, for going against everything they believe in, for letting fear spread throughout the Order, and to stop following the will of the Force. And to quote Frank Herbert and the Bene Gesserit from Dune, fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. Fear took over the Jedi Order during the Clone Wars. Arrogance and complacency opened them up to manipulation. Palpatine won, at least for a time. He did make a few mistakes that would later cause the unraveling of his empire. One is the Death Star. Click here to see why the Death Star was an absolutely terrible idea. Thank you so much for watching, and may the Force be with you.